Good afternoon, folks. This is Vernon here on the JusticeCast. Glad to be coming to you this afternoon on a Wednesday afternoon, and we are going to be chatting it up just about some all things education today, and focused on specifically what's some of the things that are going on with the Denver Public Schools Board of Education, which we do not believe are isolated to Denver Public Schools, but they have been in the news, and so we're going to talk about that. And thank my producer behind the scenes, Mr. Caleb. He's got us going, looking good today, and got all the cool stuff going on today. You can see on the desk, we got the this movie just came out, so you got to go see it. Not the Spider-Man Lego movie, but Spider-Man just came out, and is that Groot over there? Is that what that is? We got the Groot over there from Guardians of the Galaxy, and then of course our world there to make an impact in the world. I've got some books there that I've been reading. This is a good book. I'm going to tip you off if you haven't read it. But The Gift of Influence is a great book that we read as a team, and then a book that I've started to read again. I've read it before, but Black Minds Matter. This one is by Dr. J. Luke Wood. Great book. This is probably my fourth time reading it. I actually got a brand new copy of it because my other copy was kind of worn. So got those books that we're reading. But today we're going to talk about all things education. We've been posting on our socials some responses about what's going on in Denver Public Schools. I think Mr. Caleb, you got an article that we'll pull up here that you can see just recently. Chalkbeat wrote this article, and in the article at the top, see, I got to put my glasses on to see what's going on there, but in the article, it says, at retreat, Denver School Board members discuss trust, agenda setting, and a convoluted governance framework, right? So they got together, the school board and the superintendent got together, and they were working through some stuff that those of us who've worked with boards, and you've been an executive, a leader or something, and you got to work with boards, on a regular basis. It's good for you guys to tap in and make sure you guys are still on the same page, as we know that there's been some stuff in the news that kind of portrayed that there was a lot of tension going on between the seven and the one, so the board and the superintendent. And you look here, Denver School Board, the Chalkbeat says it was a polite Monday meeting, even though they said that there was the facilitator. I love that. The paid facilitator, who later in the article we find out got paid $10,000 to facilitate this day retreat. And I'm sure that included prep work prior to that, and maybe some one on one interviews prior to going in. I always think that it's good to kind of know the room you're going to facilitate in, especially if you're with a group like the school board and the superintendent, people who are doing very important jobs. But you can see the article there. No one raised their voices or pointed any fingers, but there was tension, was at times was palpable in the silence. Some board members spoke so softly that it was hard to hear them from 10 feet away. Director Klein Moak, one of our friends of the beloved community here. She says that this was the most collaborative I've ever seen the board, and I'm so proud to be here right now and so grateful for this conversation. We need more of this in general. We're going to agree with her on that. I think that boards need to have a regular conversation, regular dialogue. They're sitting and they are overseeing a nearly $2 billion organization. Lots of employees are impacted. Definitely 90,000 students plus parents are impacted. And so you would think that there would be regular relationship building, trust building, so that they could move in harmony for the good of students. So all that's there, and thanks, Caleb. You can drop that article off. You can check that article out. That's Chalkbeat. They wrote that. Um, but you can see they are going through the things that they're going through there at Denver Public Schools. And again, on our socials, we've been sharing a bit of what we think are the takes of these things. So there's kind of like we've talked about first governance. Like anybody who knows our conversations with school boards have been like, hey, you are the ones who are in most cases, in most scenarios across Colorado, you are elected by the people to represent the people and to ensure that our public schools operate in a way that are good for kids. And so We lean to the fact here that boards establish clear vision, they establish policies, expectations. They are the ultimate stewards of the resources of the district, accountability focused and on accountability focused on student thriving. That's the board, right? That's what we feel like the board should be. And the critical question that we say that when you're talking about a school board, if you're a school board member, the critical question that you need to answer yourself is, are the conditions we create making it increasingly possible for every student to thrive, right? So there is like the board has got to understand, hey, we create the conditions for students to thrive. And so is the way you govern creating the conditions to thrive? Is the way you communicate with each other, as Director Kleinmoke pointed out in the article, is the way that you communicate with each other, is it creating the conditions to make it possible for students to thrive? I think also in the article they talked about some of the agenda making and some folks felt unable to get the things that they thought should be on the agenda. And to me, I don't have to go back and forth about are we doing how do we what's the process, all this kind of stuff. I think it then comes back down to the same questions. Are we creating agendas that allow us to create the conditions for every student to thrive? And so I think there's a lot that came out in the Chalkbeat article. Those who of us who got to see some of the retreat understand that there is a any endeavor with humans, we're going to have some personalities, right? Even me and our team here, the producer of the show wants one thing, I want another thing, and it's just, I want sound effects, and then I don't get them. It's just it is what it is, right? But at the end of the day, we are trying to say, hey, is what we're doing helping? If we're bored, is what we're doing creating the conditions that make it increasingly possible for every student to thrive? I mean, that's checking your ego at the door. It's like, calm down with it, right? Calm down with it, man. This is not about you, right? I love the thing about the board is not the power of one, it's the power of seven, right? And so calm down. Like if you were a person on a board and you're trying to make it all about you, then you don't know how a board is supposed to operate, right? See, a sound effect would have been good right there. Just saying. But if you are on a board of seven and you're trying to make it about one, then you don't get the responsibility of being on a board. And so a board is, especially if you're on a board of the Denver Public Schools, it's a board of seven, and you have to learn how to dialogue with each other regularly, gracefully, understanding that you all come from different perspectives, different life experiences, different professional experiences, but you all have the same responsibility. And that goes back to creating the conditions to make it possible for every student to thrive. And so I'm hoping that from the retreat, that's happening, right? I'm hoping that from the retreat that we are constantly deciding that we're now moving from conversation to some commitment, right? Individual commitment and also collective commitment, because you can keep dropping out $10,000 for facilitators to come in and help you navigate these human personalities and all that kind of stuff, and maybe human egos as well. Or you can, let's get to work. So, in our framework, there's first governance. Governance matters. Governance is important, and we have to see better governance from our school board, Denver specifically, but again, like I said, not just Denver. Anywhere where we have school boards over public schools, they have to operate in a way that understands that your job as a member of a school board is to create the conditions to make it increasingly possible for every student to thrive. So that's in, your policy making, that's in your supervision and support of the superintendent, that's in creating a clear vision, that's in, setting the bar of expectations for the district, that's in being a good steward of the resources that the district has, and really, which I don't see enough of, and not just maybe in Denver, but I think overall, like enough accountability for students thriving. And I mean every point of thriving. How are they doing when it comes to mental health and wellness? How are they doing when it comes to the academic outcomes that we want to see for them? How are they doing when it comes to the social outcomes that we want to see from them, right? I can appreciate the celebration of increasing graduation rates, but having worked in secondary schools, I understand that that graduation data point doesn't tell the whole story. And a lot of times that graduation data point can give you a false positive, right? There are a lot of young people that we know, if we look at the data, a lot of young people are getting that diploma, that high school diploma, and their readiness rate in any of those things, be it social emotional, be it academically, be it, they're not ready. They got the diploma, but we understand that there's still gaps in what they're supposed to have. So I think that that's a board should be having deep conversations with itself and with their employee, which in all cases that I know is the one employee, the superintendent, regularly about student outcomes. So one of the things that we talk about in this framework um, that applies to like every level of this what we kind of call internally a compact, right? This thrive by design compact, right? Um, what we see. Did I just give myself thumbs up? Did you see that? I just didn't even know I did that. So, but we say that the fundamental question that we have to answer is: are children better because of what we are doing? Right. So if you're a board member, are children better because of what we are doing, right? That's like, hey, this work session that we're doing, are children better because of what we're doing? Hey, this public way we do public comment, are children better because of what we are doing? Hey, the way we evaluate ourselves and do a self-evaluation, are children better by what we are doing? Hey, the way we interact with and the way we support and evaluate the superintendent, are children better because of what we are doing? And if you answer that question, usually you're going to be focused on improving your practices because you understand that the ultimate thing that we're doing there is that our children better, and you go deeper with that question that we do here is: are children seen? Are children heard? Do children feel supported? Do children belong? Are they learning? Are they challenged? Do they have the opportunities that they need? Do they have hope for their tomorrows, right? And are they prepared to thrive? That is the all-encompassing our children doing better because of what we are doing. And that's a gut punch sometimes, right? It's a gut punch. I think for everybody who works with children, anybody who works in youth serving systems, it is a gut punch when you ask yourself that question, because we have to honestly say a lot of times what's going on is things are happening for the appeasement of adults. Things are happening because this faction of adults has power and influence and access, and then therefore those adults get what they want, and this adult faction over here doesn't have as much power, doesn't have as much access, and so then you got all this going on. So you got all these adults going like this, and then you forget that, hey, how are the children, right? How are the kids? And so yeah, our children better because of what we are doing, and that's as I say that we get a chance to a privilege to see some of the board members. They come and they work with our shift fellows here. They sit and talk with our parents. They talk with our team at events, and I will say that overall, I think that a lot of people personally own that question, but I think when you can get into this collective board setting, sometimes that question can get lost because you're dealing with the adult personalities, and I don't think it should get lost. I think it should still remain. Actually, you know what? Somebody should just maybe I'll make a poster and I'll send it over to the DPS board and just put up there and say, hey, is what you're doing today, right now, making it better for students? Like, just maybe that needs to be put somewhere. We got all the go to DPS, you got equity and all the values everywhere. Maybe we just need to put the hard questions up and say, hey, is this making things better for students? Because that's what it comes down to. So within this compact, man, and within this compact that we've been working on and we've been talking folks through, and we've been putting again things out on our socials with each component that we talked about. We've already talked about on socials about the board and how governance creates conditions. Yesterday I talked about leadership creates community and culture. Look, anybody who knows me, you can often hear me quoting John C. Maxwell. John C. Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership, and I 100% believe that. Everything rises and falls on leadership. You can have a great board, right? You can have a great board who is creating the conditions, and if you've got bad leadership, The great, and well, let me say this: if you have bad leadership, then great governance that creates the conditions will create the conditions. And one of those conditions is holding a leader accountable because the board understands, hey, we've got to protect the conditions uh, so that every student can thrive. But when a board has done its job, and when a board is doing its job, the board does its job not isolated from the superintendent, but with the superintendent. But the superintendent um, is the leader, right? The superintendent is the leader. The superintendent has, staff that helps to move things, and the job of the superintendent is to build a coherent organization capable of translating community aspirations and the board direction into results for students, right? It's this constant process of going from vision to strategy, dealing with people and resources and practice and measurement and improvement, and then coming back to vision. It is this living cycle, right? It's this living cycle that superintendents have to live in. It's not something that's linear. And sometimes it can feel linear because everything's moving at the same calendar. But really, what's going on is it's this constant cycle of evaluation, of improvement, of learning, of growing, of all of that stuff. And then you just got to lead in a way that makes all that coherent, right? And so that's while the board had their question, I think the question that we put before superintendents is: are you creating the community and culture necessary for students to thrive? Right? Again, you can have good governance, but if you got bad leadership that is failing to make a community, is creating toxic culture, is it just won't work, right? But that's where governance comes in. If you see community failing to be built, if you see toxic culture, then a good board, understanding its role as those who establish the vision and the expectations, a good board will intervene and say, okay, we've got to make a change there. But in the point where you have good leadership, the board also has to work with that good leadership to make sure this thing works. So it is a challenge, right? It is definitely a challenge. We've seen a lot of those challenges going on in Denver Public Schools, and we are just we're going to be sharing more of this compact over on our socials, on our Instagram, on my personal LinkedIn, on our Facebook page, and you can read in more depth what we're talking about here. But we want to get some of this framework out there because our young people have been working on this Thrive by Design. Our shift fellows have been working on this Thrive by Design, and we are along for the ride with them. And a lot of work has been done internally over the last 2.5 years to kind of get to this place to where we're clear on what we believe it takes. And I will tell you the five components that we talk about in this Thrive by Design Compact is: governance creates the conditions, that leadership creates community and culture, that practice creates experience, that families create expectation and possibility, and beloved community creates power, right? So for us, there's these five interconnected, interdependent spaces that when they work together, again, notice we say together, not in isolation, which we think has been the tendency, is like, oh, well, now they're the school's problem, right? So, the school separate from this, separate from a city, separate from a home, whatever. The school's got to figure it out during its 9 hours that it has the kids. And once our 9 hours is up, we're going to kick them back to maybe to the rec center, maybe to some after school program. And then those people have them at that time, right? And then after the after school stuff's done, rec center program's done, we kick them back home, right? And then home's got to take care of them, right? And all of this is done in isolation. But I think our model and what we've been putting forward and what young people have been saying to us is, in order for them to thrive, there's got to be interconnectedness and interdependence among all of these things. So again, we're talking about there's got to be great governance, there's got to be great leadership, um, there's got to be practice that creates the experience that young people deal with. Families have got to create the expectations and possibilities, and then we got to have the beloved community that creates the power, right? And so again, when you hear us talking, and when you hear us on the Justice Cast, when you hear us, in community, you're going to hear us just simply ask this question: are children better because of what we are doing. And I'll let you think about that. Take a teacher pause and think about that. I'm going to take a sip of my water from my cool glass that I got from our partners down there at Frank and Rose. Frank and Rose, great coffee spot, but thank them for this. Our children better because of what we are doing. So, right, our goal is to be able to say, for every student to be able to say this, just imagine you're a student. We want every student to be able to say this: I am seen, I am heard, I am supported, I belong, I am learning, I am challenged, I have opportunities, I have hope, and I am prepared to thrive for what's next. That is what we want to be able to be said by every student, not in just Denver, in Aurora, in Thornton, in Pueblo 60, in Pueblo 70, right, in Adams 14, in Adams 12, in Cherry Creek, right, in a DSST, and a KIP, and a Rocky Mountain Prep, um, in all of the schools that are serving kids in our public school system and beyond. We want to be able to hear every child say that. And we believe that systems that have been designed can be redesigned to that end. And that is the justice that we seek, is right. If we know that the current systems are not delivering this, then we have to, with great urgency, redesign systems and have folks who govern understand their role, folks who lead understanding their role, folks who are the practitioners on a day-to-day basis understanding their role, families understanding their role, and the beloved community understanding their role. And if everybody gets it and everybody knows how to move when the play is called, we think that we can create a space where all students thrive, all students learn in great schools, and all students achieve their hopes. That's the simple world I guess we're fighting for. And you'll hear from us every day about it until we get there. And we're appreciative of you joining us on this quick, intense hit of the Justice Cast on a Wednesday afternoon. Um, we're going to get better at this. We're getting good at this. And, my producer is going to have more sound effects from me next time. And but we're glad you joined us today on the Justice Cast. I am Vernon Jones, proud lead executive officer of FaithBridge. Remember, get out there, co-create a just world, because all children can thrive, all children can learn in great schools, and all children can achieve their hopes. We'll talk to you tomorrow.